Looking back at the index page for our demo, you'll see that there are deletion buttons implemented for each of these notes, but if I click on any of them, you'll see that we get an error because we haven't actually implemented any code to handle them. So let's build that now, but first we need to find out what the action is going to be called, and just to illustrate that, we'll right click on the button here, open it in a new tab and look at the URL that it calls. So it's notes slash the title of the note dot ID of the note slash delete. So of course that would be calling for action delete. So back in the note controller, I'm going to implement action delete. So we'll have a public function called action delete. And just like edit, it needs to pass the ID of the note in. So we're going to bring that through the root parameters. So we're going to need to pass the parameter bag in. And we'll call that params as usual. And then once we're inside the function, we need to verify that the note is correct. And so we'll use assert note exists, which I'll just pull out of the save function here. I'm not going to do this check for if params note ID because I'm just going to assume that it is going to exist, and if it doesn't exist, then assert note exists will handle that. And now that we've got a note, and if we get this far, then obviously the note exists and it's valid and all those other things, we can pass it off to the controller plugin that handles deletion. And that's really the purpose of this video, is to demonstrate the use of a controller plugin. What is a controller plugin? Well, it's an extension to a controller that has access to all of the controller's properties, but it's reusable, and so you can pull it into multiple controllers without having to worry about scoping issues or anything like that. So let's take a look at the the deletion plugin, and then we'll go through what it does. So we're going to have an XF delete plugin, and you can see that I've got a shortcut set up for this. It's going to use the plugin factory here, and it's going to call up a plugin called XF delete, which actually lives in XF controller plugin / delete, and then it's going to call action delete on the plugin with a number of parameters. So the first parameter is the entity that it needs to work with. So in this case, it's the note. And the second parameter is the link to a deletion action, namely this one, and that is notes / delete with the note entity as the parameter. It also wants an edit or a viewing link, and I'll show you why that is in a moment, but we know that it's notes edit in this particular case, so we'll go ahead with that. And then it wants a link to redirect to after the deletion is completed, and that's just going to be the notes index page, which is just notes. And finally, the last parameter that it requires is something to identify the content that we're proposing to delete on screen. So we're going to use the note title. So actually my shortcut works perfectly for this particular content because it has title already. So let's start using this. What's going to happen now is when I click this link, it'll go into action delete, assert that the note exists, and then start up the plugin. So here it is. And the plugin will open an overlay. It'll ask me to confirm deletion of a particular item, and then it uses the edit link and the title that we set up in the parameters here and here to allow me to click that and go off to edit it to verify that the particular item that is being proposed for deletion is the item that we want to delete. And then if we were to hit delete, then it's going to actually delete it. So let's go and take a look at what happens behind the scenes on that. So we'll click into the deletion plugin here in the PHP doc, which brings me up to the plugin code. And you can see it's really quite simple. First of all, it looks to see if the entity pre-delete will fail, and if it will, then it knows that it's not going to get any further, so it will return the error that was generated there. And because this is essentially an extension to the control action, that return there will of course bubble right up to this return here, and so we'll get this returning an error. But assuming that that goes through fine, then it looks to see if the request was submitted with post rather than get. If it wasn't, then it will return a view, which is the overlay we just saw. Worth noting at this point that although we did specify the required parameters, there are two more. You can name a template and pass it your own array of parameters if you wanted to override the standard confirmation dialog with your own. But assuming that we're using the standard one, then we're going to be passing it the content and the confirm URL, the content URL, and the content title, which are all the parameters that we passed here, and it just returns a view. But if it's post, then we'll call up our entity and run delete on it, and then redirect to the return URL. So essentially, that's all there is to it. And now we're back to the page we were redirected to, and if we go to the last page, you'll see that it's gone. So if you have a relatively simple deletion job to be done on any content, then the deletion plugin is the way to approach it. Remembering that you have this pre-delete function available in your entity, so anything that you need to clean up with relation to your content being deleted, you can handle it in the pre and post delete functions of your entity rather than having to do it in your controller.